Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mommin'. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jessica.
And Happy New Year.
Yes, 2021. We made it. What did you guys end up doing for New Year's Eve?
It was fun. We watched the movie you suggested, which
Patrick hated.
New Year's Eve.
That's really funny. I don't remember much about it. I just remember thinking it was really cute. So
I think it was at first, but it's very Hallmarky, which you probably
Yes.
like.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
But it was fun. Yeah, I have like even a few glasses of Prosecco, which is weird for me.
That's
And
weird.
so
Did you get
Patrick.
hungover?
No, I chugged water like that evening.
Yeah, that's the most terrifying thing.
I knew. Yeah. What do you guys do?
We ordered in from a restaurant and then watched. What did we watch? We just watched Community, a TV show, and then we were in bed by 10. So
yeah, but although because I texted you and you were up then.
I did wake up because our neighbors did fireworks, but the way that it was angled, it sounded like someone was breaking into our garage. And I woke up, and I've never had, I wake up all the time out of fear, but I woke up with my whole left side of my body twitching.
Oh my gosh. It's such a bad feeling when you have a bad dream or something.
Yes. I was like, Sean, it's happening.
What?
Someone's breaking in.
Oh, someone's breaking.
So it was just the fireworks. But so I did actually wake up for midnight.
Isn't that a weird feeling when you, like, I remember when we lived in DC, like, I always thought, like, oh, I suppose there could be a terrorist attack. I mean, like, it wasn't on my mind, but, like, I knew it could happen. And when I was at the hospital, there was the earthquake. And for a split second, I'm like, oh, crap, here it is. Like, that's it. A bomb was dropped.
Yeah. Because I was in a downtown office, and I had just started my new job, so I didn't know anyone in the break room when I was in it. And luckily, the guy in there was like, this is an earthquake, get to the doorway.
Oh, someone knew? Oh, that's so
good. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, but we're also 2 blocks from the White House.
Yeah.
So that was the most insane thing, because I don't know what it was like where you were, because you were at the hospital, but downtown, everyone was in the streets and no one knew how to get home. And for some reason, my cell phone was the only one that got signal, because everyone was jamming. So
no one did. Yeah.
For some reason, mine did. So every single person from my office used my phone to text people and be like, I'm okay. Are you okay? Like, what's going on?
Oh my good. I know that was scary too. And we did not. One person said, this feels kind of like an earthquake. I think it was like the pharmacist, and the rest of us were like trying to Google if she was right. And then we were like, oh, our patients are vented. We should check on them like ASAP. That was like the second thing I did. I was like, what was that? Oh, I should check my patients.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, if you've never experienced an earthquake, you don't know. And when you live in a city like that, you assume the worst. And it was scary for a moment. Yeah.
And I was like, DC's not on a fault line.
Right.
Like I knew, like I had any.
But the idea of an earthquake there seemed so bizarre and unlikely. So, that's funny.
Do you remember that picture that went around after?
Yes.
It was like because it was I don't know what it was rated, but it was not a very large earthquake. And there was like one aftershock that somehow woke me up, but it was very like a split second. But it there was like a garden chair, or like a chair that would be in a yard, knocked over, and it was like, we survived the DC earthquake of whatever year that was.
Although, wasn't that what cracked the Washington Monument? Am I making that up?
It did. Yeah. I think it did. So but there was some damage, but I don't think anyone was hurt. And
no, I mean, it was so minor, but
we all talked about it it was a big deal it
was a very big deal at the moment. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So I have a random question for you. This is going to be a random intro, I guess. So every time, Tori loves brushing her teeth. So every time I go in the bathroom, and I think that she'd have no idea, because what noise could possibly that make that she would know I'm about to brush my teeth? It's not like the only thing I go in the bathroom for. She'll run in like seconds later screaming, teeth. And like if I open a snack bag, they often will notice and run into, like, I have to be very strategic. Do your kids have something like that? Like if they hear it, they run?
When I open the pantry.
Oh.
Truman comes sprinting. Bah for bar.
I wonder if there's things that mom and dad had to hide from us like that.
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
We heard we'd run. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kids are just so trained.
I know, it's crazy.
Truman has, so he must go to the bathroom with Sean and I enough that he knows you put toilet paper in the toilet. Mm-hmm. So every time he goes to the bathroom now, he rips toilet paper off. And if you're nearby, he tries to wape you. And then whether or not your pants are on or off, and then he throws it in the toilet. Like, you know, you have kids, you never are in private when you are going to the bathroom, but
I lock the bathroom door always.
Oh, you do?
Yep. Wow. Even if I just have to pee and I'm like, nope, I need a minute, that's where I take a minute. I lock that door.
See, I would, except for our upstairs bathroom is right by the stairs.
Oh, and yeah.
If they're running around up there, I would rather them running into the bathroom and bothering me than like running by the steps, because we can't have a gate up there that works easily. Yeah, but it's so funny. I just in the past couple of days have realized that. I'm like, I asked Sean, has he tried to wape you yet? He was like, what are you talking about?
It's so cute when they do things playing like kind of adult-like. It's so cute.
Oh,
or not adult-like, but like caregiver. Like Tori she'll sometimes take her. I said she was taking like her little bear, and it looked like she was trying to put it like a blanket on as a diaper, but it's like so cute because you're like, oh, I know, you're so sweet.
It's so sweet. She's so big cute too. She is getting big.
All the kids are. Yeah.
Well,
we hope you all had great New Year's and holidays, and looking forward at 2021, whatever it will be.
Yeah, looking forward with some hope.
Yeah, but not too much pressure or anything. Just kind of, we'll see what it gives us.
Yeah, let's not overhype it, but let's have some hope. And on that note, we want to introduce today's guest. We chatted with Tara Williams, who is the founder of Dreamland Baby. It is the first wearable weighted blanket for infants and toddlers, and they also just recently launched their first weighted blanket. Tara has 4 children, and she talks about the process of building Dreamland Baby, how it came to be from having a baby who wouldn't sleep, her 4th child. She talks about how both she and her husband were laid off when she started this company and the struggles, and just the entire process and what it's like to be a mom of 4. She's super fun and funny, and the story is so inspiring and interesting, and we really hope you enjoy this episode.
One thing that we should mention, there was a weird connection during a couple of points during the early parts of the podcast. That is completely fixed, even I think past like 10 to 15 minutes, but we just wanted to make note of that. We did have such a fun time chatting with Tara. We hope that you enjoy this conversation with her as much as we did. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would leave a rating and review and share it with a friend. You can find us at momandpodcast.com, at Mom and Podcast on Instagram, and our Mom and Podcast Facebook group. Happy listening. Hi, Tara. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Mommin'.
Hey, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to chat with you.
And especially on this day of your launch day of your weighted blanket for the kiddos. For the bigger kiddos.
It's a very exciting day, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to dive into that in a little bit.
Yes. So we always like to get started with just asking people a little bit about themselves, where you live, what you do for work, and a little bit about your family.
Yes, absolutely. So we live outside of San Francisco in California, and I am the founder of Dreamland Baby. So I do that full time. My husband works in investment banking, I guess you'd call it, helps people manage their money. And we have 4 children. Brooklyn is my oldest. She's 8. And then Lydia is 7. Beckett is 5. And Luke is almost 3.
Wow.
That's amazing. I feel like I've talked to more and more moms lately that have 4 kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, they're always like the most put together.
Oh my gosh,
like,
no.
This doesn't jive in my brain to me.
No. The 4th put me over the edge. That's for sure.
I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Did you always know that you wanted a big family?
I did. I'm actually the oldest of 5, and my husband is the youngest of 4. So when we were dating, I told him very specifically, I want 4 kids. That was my number. I always knew that was, I felt 5 was totally overwhelming and 4 was somewhat overwhelming. So wanted to cap at 4.
That makes sense. Did you ever, once you had like 1 and 2 and then 3, did you ever think, no, we're good? Or you just were dead set on it?
No, so it's a funny story actually. My girls are 14 months apart, and then my second and third are 17 months apart. So my first 3 are really, really close. When my son was born, my oldest was only 2.5. So it was crazy, but I felt like it was just we just continuing kind of the newborn phase, and people were in diapers and car seats and feeding, and it was a lot all at once, but I loved it. I think for me, especially growing up in a big family, I really thrive in chaos. And that is when I'm at my best, when there's a ton going on. But after my third, we were definitely overwhelmed. And at the time, I was traveling for work. I've always had jobs where I've represented a big part of the country. And so, I'm on planes all the time, and we had a nanny, and my husband said, listen, like we're done. We're not having any more kids. Mm-hmm. I'm home with them at night. And if you're not going to be here, what's the point? And you want all these kids. And so we took a break, and then I just had such a prompting. We are very religious, but if you don't believe in God, just that nudge that there's another baby waiting for you. And we would, sit down at the dinner table, and I felt like there was another little person that I was supposed to be feeding, not specifically a girl or a boy, but just there was someone else there. And so I felt so strongly about it. And I told my husband, and we went back and forth for a couple of years. So my third and fourth were actually 3 full years apart. And he just did not want, and he had his boy, and he did not want a fourth. And finally I told him, if you do not have this baby with me, I am going to be resentful for the rest of my life. Like, you have to make this decision. Get on board. When we were dating, you told me we could have 4 kids. And he said, well, I told you if it felt right. And I was like, well, this is your moment to feel right. So it was definitely, I pushed him for our 4th. And then, we might get into this later, but ironically, he was just such a monster baby, like horrible. Our first 3 were so easy. And he didn't sleep, and he cried all day, and he had colic. And I mean, he was awful, probably as bad as they come. But he is my Dreamland baby. And that is what I founded the company on, him. So I do believe it all came together. And my dream was always to be an entrepreneur and a CEO. So it just felt like, when I reflect on the pieces to get me here, they all so clearly fit together now.
Oh my goodness.
I have so many feelings.
I know. Did your husband say, like, you're up with this baby who doesn't sleep because I told you?
Well, and so the irony of it is, truly, my first 3 were the easiest babies. I mean, people would say, what are you guys doing? They were sleeping through the night at a few weeks old. It was insane. I mean, truly just insane. And so with Luke, my 4th, I said, listen, you don't have to change any diapers. I will take care of him. Because my husband's really not, he loves when the kids are about 2 and up where they can interact. He's not like a baby guy. So I said, you don't have to do anything. Don't worry. And then Luke was born, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I need help. Like, he's so hard. So I went back on pretty much everything I had said.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully so. I mean, you can't not. But it sounds like if you didn't have him, imagine where you would be.
I know.
Yeah. So tell us about, I guess if we want to jump into that right away, how he led to the evolution of you creating Dreamland Baby.
Yeah, it's, again, just looking back, every piece so perfectly fits together. And I think most women, if they have an idea of what their life will be, it either turns out that way or not. But when you look at kind of how you get from where you think you want to go to where you are, it all weaves together. So he was born, he wasn't sleeping. I was at several different startups and just traveling a lot. So my background before Dreamland Baby was actually in the medical device space. So I had a pretty niche job of what I was doing, but I basically consulted in bringing novel medical device products to market. So I had done this with a number of startups, and it's bringing something new that had never been used before to be used in a new way. And this was going to, from looking at clinical trials to working with the big Stanfords and UCLAs and these academic tertiary centers who are doing experimental things with humans because they are, dying of pancreatic cancer. And they say, I will try something outside the box because I want to, at this point, just really try anything. So I had a host of jobs like that, but they were always traveling. And so my last job, when I was on maternity leave, I loved it. And so it was really hard for me to step away and leave. But I actually got laid off, and the company closed its doors while I was on maternity leave. And we knew the writing was on the wall. They said, hey guys, start interviewing. And I said, I'm 8 months pregnant. So I'm just going to get through my maternity leave, and then hopefully the company's around. If it's not, we'll go from there. And so I actually did end up getting laid off. And then I said, I'm going to take this time to be home with my now 4 kids, age 5 and under, and really just be a mom for a little bit. And it was during that time. So then Luke was 6 months old, and he was still waking up every hour and a half. And I was home and I was searching. I bought every sleep sack, every swaddle. And the interesting part about this is something that normally I would have our nanny do. We've always had a live-in nanny. And so all of those type things I was now doing. So I was researching, and I'm like, there's no good product. Like, everything I'm looking for, it's not working. It's not helping. This rocker is not working. And so one night, my husband and I, we had the older kids in bed, and we had Luke on the couch with us. And we had a really heavy throw blanket. We laid it on top of him. And I feel like I've told this story a million times, but just this calm, it was so immediate, came over his face. And I thought, oh my gosh, he needs a weighted blanket. And I felt so excited because I felt like I had the answer. So I rushed to my computer to order it. And to my dismay, there was no wearable weighted blanket for infants. So there's loose ones that are available. And we are very strict rule followers with safe sleep in my house. The American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend loose blankets in the crib, especially, of course, not a loose weighted blanket. So I called my mother-in-law. She sews really well. And I described very clearly my design, and I mocked up what I wanted. And about 2 weeks later, she had the product completed. I will never forget, I was at the gym at 8:00 at night, and she said, hey, I finished it. I'll bring it by in the morning. And I said, I'm leaving the gym right now. I'm coming to pick it up. She lives really close to us. And so I swung by and I got it. And I was like bounced home. And I was like, look, I have this thing your mom's been working on. My husband's like, okay, whatever. At this point, we're all just so tired and unemployed. And so we put it on my son, and he slept for 12 hours. I mean, it was truly like an hour and a half was the most we had gotten over 6 months every night, like hour and a half stretches. So sleeping through the entire night. I was still awake, of course, because I was used to waking up. And I just kept going to his room, and I'm like, still asleep. This is incredible. So my husband was a doubter, and he said, oh, it's a fluke. But the next day he took like a 3-hour nap, and he had only taken, 30, 45-minute naps. That night, again, 12 hours. And here we are 2.5 years later, and he's still sleeping through the night. And I just keep making bigger sizes for him.
I was just going to ask, is he still wearing it?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I mean, in my mind, if I Google something and it doesn't come up, it's because I've used the wrong search terms. Like, everything must exist like that for babies. But how incredible for you to go through there and be like, well, first of all, disappointing because you needed it, but then to have your mother-in-law who's capable of creating it, that's amazing too.
Yeah, it was truly, it was a moment of desperation. And I was just so determined to get this product because it was so clear and obvious in my mind. Weighted blankets exist for adults and children and even dogs. Like, babies are the most obvious in my mind that would benefit from a womb-like hug. Of course, they'd have it for babies. Shockingly, no, we are the first.
Which is interesting because when I would float, I'm a nurse, and when I would go to the NICU, they have these like hands for the baby that like puts pressure, which of course is. I am also a safe sleep advocate. Do not do that at home. That is for NICU babies who are on monitors and need that. But it's true that they have that there.
It is shocking because it has been, like you said, used in the NICU for 20 years. I mean, it's a known therapy to help calm babies, to fill a glove with rice, to apply that pressure that would be simulated by a hand to mimic a hug. So it was bizarre to me that no one had brought it to market. But when I realized we were onto something to make this into a company, and like I said, my background is very entrepreneurial, and I had been with several startups, but I started telling my friends, I'm sleeping through the night now. And they said, well, what did you buy? What did you do? Because I'm in the age where I have 4 kids. So a lot of their friends, moms have kids, and everybody's having babies, early 30s. And, I told the idea, and it was so immediate that people started asking me if my mother-in-law would make one for them or their sister, or I'm right now stacking blankets on my baby and I know it's not safe. Could you make one for that? Or if when my child was young, they would have loved that. They now sleep with a weighted blanket. It was just so overwhelming, the response. 10 out of 10 people wanted one. And that's when I thought, I looked at the other thing I didn't know. My husband actually got laid off the day before my son was born. So we were both unemployed, which was a really super crazy time. He was with his job for 15 years. So since college. So it was a really, really crazy time in our family. We have 4 kids, 5 and under. We're both laid off. And then we had this baby relentlessly waking up. And so it was, if I were to say, a pit in our marriage or life, that was it for sure. It was not a peak. And to go from feeling like a failure as a wife, as a mom, as just a human being. I mean, some days I would hear my kids wake up in the morning and I would dread them to even come in my room because I was that just sounds terrible, but I was so tired. So to be able to go from that to now sleeping through the night, I felt renewed, like a new person. And I started working out again, and I started putting on makeup and clothes again and just emerging because I had energy, even a little bit, I'm very much about personal development and personal growth and always striving to be your best. And so I thought I was truly at my worst, and this product gave me the ability to be at my best again. And we have something that can help thousands, hundreds of thousands of families. There's so many families that are in that newborn funk that are just, not loving being parents. And the thought that we could help them and change their perception of what life was like at that time, to be able to look back and say, oh, I loved being a new mom. Yeah, I got sleep. Some nights I didn't, but most I did. And I was at my best. That to me is everything. And that's really what drives, and it's the why in the company. And those bad days and things that's what I hold on to. So this is truly such a joy and an honor to be able to bring Dreamland Baby to families and really help them kind of regain their life back.
Oh, it's true.
True.
When the baby sleeps the whole day, it's different.
It is.
It is. And new parents will try anything. I think I've mentioned it before. My son, my second child, was a horrible sleeper, and I would spend so much money in the middle of the night being like, I'll try anything, literally anything.
Blackout shop.
Yeah, and I didn't do anything. I literally saw one person on that maternity leave besides daycare drop off for my daughter, because I was like, I can't function. I don't even think it's safe for me to drive. You're so tired. So
totally.
Yeah, having something out there is incredible, and amazing that you took it from this idea out of desperation.
Yes.
But what was that like? So you have friends that are saying, okay, we want this product too. How do you go from that to you have this amazing company? Tell us about the in-between.
Well, so the first thing is I looked at this as a consumer product, and with my background in medical devices, I had experience in bringing medical devices to market. And the first thing you do is you want to look for a patent. And I just figured, because this idea was so obvious, that it was going to already have been patented, and that was it. And so when I went to a patent prosecutor and, researched every company that had anything similar, my idea, and then we were able to file. I was shocked that, again, nobody had thought of this concept. It was really bizarre to me. And then I started thinking, is there a reason why no one has thought of it? Because everyone I've talked to has said that doesn't exist, or they said you should be on Shark Tank. What are the two? The responses I got. And so then I started really digging into the clinical side and the safety. And I mean, this is not something that we're implanting in humans, but I probably took it way overboard, my level of research and the safety that I wanted to get surrounding the product. So I did research for almost probably a year. And we met with pulmonologists, pediatricians, NICU nurses that had been familiar and using the weighted components, sleep consultants. I mean, a whole range of medical professionals who are experienced in the sleep segment. And of course, infants and breathing and all of those pieces. And really just to make sure that we calibrated these in an appropriate way with the even distribution of weight. So that is so critical because each area of the pockets are evenly distributed. So there's no area that's heavy. I mean, truly, like your hand on the baby is heavier than what the Dreamland baby weighted blanket is. So, some parents will receive it and go, wow, it feels really heavy in their hands. But these are little tiny pockets. There's, over 50 from shoulder down to toe. So it's evenly distributed. And that's also really what harnesses the power of deep touch stimulation. So like in adult weighted blankets, when you hear that lowering cortisol, which is that fight or flight, increasing serotonin, the happy hormone, and melatonin, the sleep hormone, that is what that deep touch stimulation is doing. And so it's really helping babies get just calm and relaxed so they can, fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. That's kind of our tagline, but that is what weighted blankets do. They just help you feel calm. And the neat thing about it is it's instant. It's not like, it's over many months, they'll get used to it. I mean, we have a lot of success stories like my son, where it's truly like the first night you put it on, your baby's sleeping through the night. We do see with older babies, there's some adjustment if they're like a really, really bad sleeper. We'll say maybe like up to a week. But I would say of everyone who uses it, 95% have just complete sleep transformations, really similar to mine.
Wow. And that's so interesting. I feel like that's exactly who I am. I'm like, if there's a safety thing that I need to think about, I'd be so over researching. And it's actually the first thing I wondered when I was reading about your product. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by how you figured out like how you build a sleep sack.
Yeah. Well, and
get it certified.
Before we brought it to market, it was really important to me that there was a clinical trial that was done. And again, just with my background, like we would never do stuff without that clinical trial piece. And so we actually partnered with, there was a NICU that had run a trial in October of 2018. They completed it and published it. And so it looked at infants in the NICU who weighed 5 to 7 pounds, and they had a 1 pound weighted blanket on them. So it was actually up to 20% body weight. We went super conservative and did 10% or less. So your baby it's a very, very gentle, non-threatening weight. So it's really actually, I would love to put more, but I feel that it would commercially, people would maybe feel it was too heavy. But yeah, I mean, it's only 10%. And that's, if you have a 15-pound baby, for example, in our medium, that's 1.5 pounds, but that baby can be up to 20, 30 pounds and still wearing that. So then it becomes lighter and lighter. And that's when parents move up in size. But it's a very, very gentle weight. And like I said, evenly distributed. So that clinical trial was really great. It showed, safety and also sleep duration, which are really the two things we're looking for. So with that information, I felt, we have a kind of stamp of approval from that medical community beyond my individual research, and that's something we can cite and direct parents to, and we're good to go to market.
That is so awesome. And one more question about that, like that research behind it. I'm just curious with like a baby product like this, are there certain organizations who have to like approve it for market, or is it kind of to your discretion? What did that look like?
Yeah. So the baby stage actually has really stringent rules. So it's called the CPSC. So they mandate what has to be tested and looked at, from toxicity to small parts to just like from the warning label verbiage. We think that as moms, especially, like, oh, everybody knows how to, you know, wrap a swaddle, or that the swaddle shouldn't be, but it's very specific, everything you have to follow to really provide that education. And then there's, I want to say like 25 or 30 different tests that we had to pass. And then we did additional ones that were voluntary, from torque strength to the zipper to make sure there's no lead in the paint. I mean, it's on and on, just to really make sure that those products are super, super safe for baby.
Wow. That's a process.
Yeah.
It was really fun though. I think when you look at owning a small business, it seems to me right now being an entrepreneur is a hot thing to be, but I believe that it's not something you can really teach. Like, you either have the heart to do it or you don't. And for me, I love all these pieces and trying to figure things out. And we have, we'll have a new challenge, or we're in a global pandemic. How do we respond to that? And it's just always something new and changing and fun, and trying to grow the company. I love it. I mean, it's for me. I'm like living my dream.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, and you can see that. I mean, people listening can't see it, but you are so passionate and your face is lighting up talking about it. So you are clearly meant to be doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you spent a year researching and getting everything approved and tested. Did you have investors already? Tell us about how you went from, okay, we have the product, we've tested it, we got the patent. What's next? We have to, manufacture these.
Yeah. And like I said, it was a crazy time because my husband and I were both laid off, and we had no incoming money. And my husband just was saying to me, this is not the right time to start a business. We knew, based off the job he had, he would most likely be looking or be unemployed for 6 months to a year. And I could find something easier. So he was really, really pushing me, like, just go back to work at a minimum so we can have health insurance, because we were paying for Cobra. It was just so expensive. And I think when most people start a business, they really have that support of their husband. And I did not. It was truly, I was in opposition of him. And I just kept telling him, like, I promise you this will pay out in dividends. Like, I know right now it doesn't feel like it, and so I shared the story on Shark Tank. It was kind of a funny one, but I actually, when you are on maternity leave in the state of California, you get a stipend because you're technically on disability. And so I think it was $14,500 in this separate bank account that came from the state. And so it was at a bank we don't even bank at. And so he didn't know about it really. And so money that I used, and he didn't figure it out until he's like, hold on, like, how did you pay someone to patent this? And he's like, where are you getting this product? And I was like, well, and so then I told him, and he was like, oh my gosh, Tara, like, come on. So I definitely was a little bit sneaky with it because I had to be, but he finally started coming around when we got accepted to be on Shark Tank. Then he's like, okay, this might be legit. People might want this. But so how did I start? I mean, $14,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it goes in a blink of an eye when you're trying to get a company going. And we did a Kickstarter, and that was in May of 2019. So if people don't know what that is, essentially it's a website platform where you share your idea and then people purchase it. Pre-order. And so you use that money to pay for the production of the product. And then the people who pre-order will get it in however many months later. For me, it was about a 3-month runtime. So they would get it in August, September. So, I mean, people are on Kickstarter. A baby product is really not a great thing to be on Kickstarter. They typically don't do very well. It's things like tech and board games that do really well. But ours funded about $25,000. So it was enough to place my first order for 1,000. And it was such a scary moment to wire $25,000 to someone I didn't really know and think, well, I hope they deliver the product. But they came and they were great. And so we were able to deliver on our promise to our backers. And that was really how the company got started. And then in September of 2019, I launched our website. It was on Shopify. I'm a Shopify super fan. If anyone is trying to launch a business, do not look anywhere else but there. So I actually built the website myself. And then we were live. And in September, we turned it on, and, our first month, how many did we sell? I know the revenue dollars, but I can't think of how many we sold, maybe like 100. It wasn't a lot. And then the next month I realized, okay, we need to start using influencers, because I thought the traction from Kickstarter would just be a snowball and everyone's going to love it and they're going to tell all these people, but it just wasn't enough. And a lot of people who had purchased them were pregnant, so they hadn't even used them yet, because anyone with a baby that wasn't sleeping in May wasn't going to wait until August to get a product. So it was a lot of those people, again, hadn't even had experience with the product. So then we started working with influencers, and as soon as they started getting them, that's when I think things started really growing for us, because we'd have an influencer use it and love it and tell her friends who were influencers. And then all of a sudden we'd have, 5, 6, 10 influencers saying, oh, Jenna told me about this product. We'd love to collab with you. And we're like, okay. So it became, at first we were trying to find people, and then people kept coming to us. And then as soon as we started using the influencers, they were telling moms who weren't sleeping and were really in that same spot we were. They would try it, use it, love it, and then they'd tell a couple friends. And then so it became this snowball really, really early on. So we were actually profitable our second month, which is super rare. It's super rare. And
Wow.
I mean, overall in 2019, we were negative because of startup expenses, but it was really crazy to see just how much people loved them. So our second month, we actually sold out, which the inventory I ordered, I thought would be for 6 months. And so then I just kept doubling our orders every single month, and it was never enough. So we were always constantly on pre-order, and then, we'd say, okay, they're going to be here in 2 weeks. And then as soon as it got there, they would already be sold out. And then it was kind of this cycle, which isn't great for consumers, because really this product, when someone's really tired, they want that immediate solution. Yeah. So I kept trying to just order more, and each order, it was just so, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're spending this much money. Like, will we be able to sell it? But I mean, now, like, I placed an order for 50,000, which sounds insane, but it's not. And we'll be placing double orders on that here soon. So it's really exploding as more people try it and see it. And Shark Tank definitely helped with brand recognition for sure.
Yes, tell us about Shark Tank. Like, when you applied, like, tell us what that was like.
Yeah, it was such a fun, once in a lifetime experience. So I actually applied in March of 2019. I just applied on their website, and there's this really short, it's like a 1 paragraph, nothing application, where I was almost like, wait, is there more? Is that it? So I was like, well, all right, whatever, submit. So I had just described, truly, it's like a paragraph you get. So I described the product and a little blurb about my family. And I was super shocked, because I had gotten an email and they said that the executive producer wanted to have a call with me. And I was like, what? Okay. So then he was like, okay, he wants to get a call with you tomorrow. And I was like, tomorrow? And so I have watched the show for 10 years. Like, I am a super fan of Shark Tank. So I had recognized his name. I'm like, why do I know his name? And I look back, and he is like the executive producer, like the decision maker. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, I tried to prep as best I could, and he was super cool, super nice. And we're going through it, and he's like, I love this. And you're telling me there's nothing like this on the market? And I'm like, no, can you believe it? And he's like, he's like, weighted blankets are super hot right now. Like, we would love it. We think the investors, the sharks, this is something they'd be really interested in. And so he says, okay, what are the sales? And it was like when the record stops, like, and so I said, we're pre-launch right now. And he was like, okay. And he said, so call me back. Like, what's the plan to get some money? Call me back when you're there. And so I said, well, we've been thinking about doing a Kickstarter. And he was kind of, at that point, I could tell he was like, not interested. He was like, okay, whatever. Just like, let me know when you have some traction with sales, because the investors, as much as it's a show, it is a real opportunity and investment. And, they don't want to waste their time with something that's a concept. So then I started just following up with him, like, okay, the Kickstarter's in a week. I'll let you know how it goes. Oh, we're live. And we funded in the first 72 hours. And and then he was like, "Oh, let me know when it ends." And so I kept sending him. So if anyone's thinking about applying, I don't know why I did this. I kept sending these little videos of myself, which I think was a moment to do. It was so bizarre. I was sitting in my bathroom and I would like try a filter and I'm like, no, go natural. I like put on all this makeup and then do these short clips of myself. Like, hey, it's Tara. Here's what's happening with my baby today. And when I actually got on set, he came over and he was like, you are the most persistent person we have ever in the 10 years. Nobody has tried harder to get on this show than you. And I was like, oh, maybe I should be flattered. I don't know. But he was like, we love the hustle. Like, we're here for it. So they did call me in July and they're like, all right, fine, you can come on. Like, you've harassed
Stop the videos.
yeah, he's like, please stop sending me. So then I got matched up with they have assistant producers. So I got matched up with 2 women. They were amazing. We had our weekly call for 2 months. It's like a full-time job.
Wow.
So it's a 2-month prep. And then in September of 2019, which was crazy timing because we had just launched, like literally 3 weeks before. I was on the show and we did all the things. And, I found myself in a room with Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary and, Lori Grenier. And it was truly an out of body, just surreal experience. They are all the loveliest people. They're just kind and supportive and great. And so we made a deal. And I was actually, my husband came out with me for that beginning kind of fun skit part where you're like, I'm Tara from Danville and here's my product. So he did a little funny thing where he woke up from a baby, but then he exited. He left the stage because he doesn't do anything with the business. So it's not like, people have said to me, why wouldn't you have him there for moral support if nothing else? I'm like, well, he wouldn't be able to answer anything. So he'd just be standing there. So he left and it was me by myself. And I did make the deal with Lori. And I think a lot of it was, I was really selling them on me. Like, they thought the product was great, but we didn't really have any sales other than Kickstarter at that point. But I went in with the mindset, like, we don't have a lot to go off of. So I have to sell them on the concept and then that they can believe that I can achieve this. And I just, from the very beginning of this journey, felt so sure that, it's, when you look at bringing a product to market, it's got to be a good product, right? I could go sell a water bottle or a pen, but this, I just felt like it was helping people and so many people. And how many new babies are born every year? And then that's 2 parents that, are affected by lack of sleep. So it was a passionate thing. And I think they could tell. So Lori offered me to make a deal on the show, which was super exciting. And she's my dream shark, which she doesn't invest in early companies typically. So I didn't even think she would offer, but she did. And so besides, my marriage Dale's married and birth of my kids, that's definitely like a top 10 best days of my life for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And they don't tell you, oh, go ahead, Jess.
No, go ahead.
Do they not tell you until that moment on live TV, or do they tell you in the prep ahead of time? Like, oh yeah, someone's investing in you.
Well, it's a negotiation. So you have to actually, what they don't show is they narrow it down to 10 minutes, but I was in there for an hour and a half having a dialogue and talking about, investment potential and market cap and, average lifetime value of a customer. All these really specific details and how are we going to run the operation and what is growth going to look like and what's our return on investment timeline. So, I was a finance major, so I was like tapping back into my college brain, but a lot of that and being with startups and understanding growth models and how quickly or not quickly you can scale something, I think definitely really helped to be able to speak intelligently to it, even though I had just started. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was a wild experience for sure.
Wow. And I had no idea that they worked with you for 2 months prior to. It's an hour. You see the small snippet on the show, but that's an investment for you too.
It really, and for me, it honestly was great because there were a lot of things that, because we hadn't shipped product yet, like we weren't just from a legal standpoint, like truly a company yet. And so just, I mean, like I hired a CPA and we got all the taxes and became like an LLC and a lot of things that I don't know that I would have out the gate done. But I mean, there's a list of 100 things that you have to meet prior to even being able to be allowed to go on the show, all business certificates and all these different things. And so it really accelerated my business to know I was going on the show. And we became a C Corp and I set ourselves up to be able to take on investors and did a lot of things that I wouldn't have done. So, I mean, I've gotten asked a couple of times, if you could have, would you have gone on 1 year later? And I'm like, no, I would have gone on exactly when I went on. And we aired on the season finale that was a Friday night during a global pandemic. Nobody is out. Everybody is home. People are, so sick and tired of being sick or tired that they want to buy one. So, I mean, the timing of when we aired was wonderful. So it all worked out perfectly.
Wow. And now you've launched another product. Is this the second product with it? And tell us about that.
Yeah, today actually. So if I look exhausted, I am. I went to bed at I think 1 or 2 last night, and I was up super early just getting everything ready. But this was our first new product launch after launching the company. We started with a small and a medium that was a size 0 to 6 and a 6 to 12. And we did roll out a size large. So that was a 12 to 24. But it wasn't really I didn't make it into a big launch. It was just like, oh, now we have another product. People are another size people are asking for. But this was a totally new product. And again, it was really fun going back into the design phase of it and the testing. And, I think I'm overdoing it for sure, but I wanted these, products, like I said, weighted blankets, they exist, but how do we take it up a level? And so these are, all the safeties there, and they're Okotex standard 100 approved, which is like the very highest standard in textiles. And we put a satin rim around the edge because my kids, they love to put something soft on their face. So we added a lot of extra features, and it's like really high end fabrics and materials. And we have, they're dual sided. So there's like a hot side for winter and a cooler side for, the summer months. So it's really a year round solution. And they are for anybody, any child who's 30 pounds and up, but really it's like 3 to almost 8 years old. I mean, my 8-year-old right now is sleeping with one and she loves it. So my 7, 8-year-old, all 4 of my kids have one. So it's been really, really fun to do. And it's been fun. This is a mom podcast. Of course, it's been fun to be able to bring my kids in to be testers and to try different things and say which material feels softest and what do you like? Do you want the satin or not? And we've had a couple other things that I've tried that I've, put in my girls' beds, and right away they're like, oh, mom, I like it. And yeah, it's like, okay. But then after a few days, they're not using it anymore. And then I can tell, okay, they're saying they like it for me. But then we tried the weighted blankets, and that's something, they've had for a couple of months, and they still every night grab it, and it's part of their bedtime routine. And so fortunately, I have 4 live-in test subjects. And it's really cool because now I'm teaching them about money too. We did a photo shoot, and I said, if you'd like to participate, I'm paying each person $5. And so, my girls said they wanted to. And even my baby, who's 2, was like, I want $5. And I was like, okay, because he said he wanted to buy candy with it. And I was like, sure. My 5-year-old didn't want to participate. And I said, well, you will not get the $5. You understand that? And he said, yeah, I just don't want to be in the pictures. I said, okay. So, I mean, they're understanding like this is a job. And so I love that I get to be able to do that aspect. And before we outsourced our shipping, they would help me put the stickers, the shipping labels on, and we drive to the post office together. And they see me working, and it's just been so cool. I have 2 girls and 2 boys, but to be able to show my girls, like, you can do anything. I mean, truly be anything, do anything. The glass ceiling is shattered now with our election too. I mean, we have a president amazing. But for my boys too, to see like this is like, If you want to stay home with your kids full time, I love that. And I think that's amazing. And if you want to work full time, that's amazing. If you want to do part time, like you can kind of have these different roles. I mean, I don't think women are so set in being maybe a housemaker anymore or a homemaker. So I love that my boys can see that, your she's a CEO. Like that's a pretty cool thing. And they love that too. So it's just so great being a mom, being able to have this, side hustle.
So, I like that you're calling it a side hustle. I don't know if it qualifies as that anymore.
Yeah, I think it's graduated, but I love the humility. That's probably my favorite part.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Oh, I feel like we could ask you about this all day because it's so fun hearing your story about this.
Yes. No, I'm just so impressed that going way back that you thought to have two different sides of your blanket for the summer and the winter.
As people in Minnesota, we are hearing that.
Yeah, I'm like, why doesn't everyone have that?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, just your attention to detail and the thoughtfulness that you're putting in your products is so evident. And I mean, no wonder it's successful because you clearly care about it. And you're, like you said, you have your test subjects right there. So I'm not surprised that it's doing so well. I'm just in awe of you.
We listen so much to our customers. So I am really involved in, I have full-time customer service people, but I'm really involved in answering questions and jumping on there. And, I make that a weekly thing, and we have a weekly meeting, and I'm like, all right, what are people asking for? What do they not like? And then we make, it sounds like it's not a big deal, but just changing something, like we started with a number 3 zipper and now we use a number 5 zipper. Because we found that some babies were strong enough to kick and break the bigger ones. And so it's all these little small details are, and I tell my customer service team, if you hear it from 2 people, it's something to bring to me. If it's a one-off crazy thing, whatever. But if you hear more than one person says anything, good, bad, anything in between, then that's what we talk about on our weekly call. From shipping things to just everything. So we're constantly, every single round I order, we're making different like small adjustments that as a consumer, you probably wouldn't notice, but the product is just getting better and better and better.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so interesting and so inspiring to hear stories, especially from moms about these products that they create. And I think that's amazing. And what it's given you and your family is incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing all that too. What a ride.
Absolutely. It's been a ride.
I love hearing all of it.
Yeah.
But in interest of preserving your time and your celebration tonight, we'll move on.
All right. So we'll switch to some, I was going to say, so we'll switch to some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So what do you do to take care of yourself?
I work out every day. So if that's just like a jog or doing a like at home, push-ups or something, I'm not like doing push-ups. Sounds like I'm on Malibu Beach. I follow this app and it's like an at-home workout. So 30 minutes every day, even just a walk, like I'm doing something to move my body.
Awesome. And I'm curious because you mentioned personal development. Is there a book or a podcast or anything that you find particularly helpful?
I love audiobooks. I just finished Phil Knight's Shoe Dog, and now I'm the biggest Nike fan. It's the memoir and business advice from the founder of Nike. It's such a great read. So whenever I have time, I'm listening to audiobooks.
Awesome.
Yeah. What advice do you have for your kids as they're growing up and figuring out what they want to do?
Ooh, I think we just talk about the spectrum of options that, my oldest wants to have 10 kids. Yes, 10. She has been firm on that, and she wants to be an artist. Said that's amazing. And my second daughter has talked about wanting to be a doctor. And I'm like, great, let's do that. And then my son wants to be like a superhero, a firefighter, all the boy stuff. But I just, want to let them know that they, like we mentioned earlier, whatever they want to do, we will support them as parents, and we'll help them find an avenue to achieve that.
That's awesome. And what's the most surprising part of being a parent to you?
So I was reading these questions earlier, and I'm like, what am I most surprised by? And this is going to actually sound funny, but I didn't think I would ever like yell or be mad at my children before having kids. You see these just little angel children, and I've had these, I call them like a monster mom moment where I'm just like, put everything, I've told you for the last time, and I never thought, even though I have an explosive personality, I just didn't think I would ever be like that. And I think part of that too is I traveled tons. So every moment I had with my kids was at their best. They were fed and the house was cleaned and everything was great. And we just had that playtime. But now like really being in the weeds of doing everything, the laundry while I'm juggling homeschool, there's definitely the dynamic has changed. And I do have those yelling moments, which I didn't think I would have, but I do.
Oh, I mean, maybe there's parents who don't, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all human.
Yes.
And what has been the best part about being a parent for you?
I think the most rewarding part is just educating my kids. My husband's like, stop teaching them stuff. Whatever we're doing, I'm like, oh, do you see this green pasture? Like the reason it's green is because of the da-da-da-da. Like I wouldn't say I'm a natural teacher, but I like to educate them and help expand their worldview. My daughter is just the sweetest. They're owning a business. There's the highest highs and the lowest lows. And that is definitely because I work from home. I mean, they can tell on a day when I'm stressed out. And so my daughter is so intuitive, and my 8-year-old, and she'll just come up to me and she'll be like, hey mom. And I'll say, and she can tell I'm just like, yes, Brooklyn. And she'll say, I love you. And I'm like, oh, you melt me. Like so those moments are what I live for with my kids.
Oh, I love that. She sounds like a hyper intuitive little kiddo.
Yes.
Truly the best. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite family tradition?
We go to Boston every year. I'm from Boston for Christmas, and we get together with my 4 other siblings, all my cousins, all my aunts, all my uncles. It's the best, like fun, big celebration. So that my kids love doing that.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess last question is, how can people find you?
Yeah, so we're pretty active on Instagram. I would say that's the best spot, and it's Dreamland Baby Co. And then, of course, on our website, Facebook. I mean, we're kind of on all the social platforms, and we have a little chat bot on our website. So if you see an answer that says Tara Williams, that is me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, Tara, thank you for talking to us on a launch day.
Yes. My gosh.
I would not have planned this. It ended up changing, but it was so fun because this has been such an exciting, we did so much more than I thought that we would do. It was just such an amazing launch. So it's such a fun way to end the day. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Well, you go enjoy your celebration. Yes. You deserve it. And
celebrated.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. We so appreciate hearing your story.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Tara. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would leave a rating and review and share it with a friend. Remember, you can find us at momandpodcast.com, at Mom and Podcast on Instagram, and our Mom and Podcast Facebook group. Have a great week. Bye.